Let's face it, running your own interior design business can feel overwhelming. But guess what? You don't have to do it alone. I am so excited to introduce a brand new way to get the support you need. One-on-one mentorship with me, Laura Thornton, your interior design bestie. In just one focused hour, we'll dive into whatever you need most, whether that's pricing strategies, client management, presentations, attracting clients, building up a repeat business, or just getting out of the hamster wheel. You'll get clarity, strategy, and expert advice based on my 28 years of running a thriving business and over the last decade, a seven-figure design firm. This is your chance to get real answers to the questions you've been dying to ask from someone who's actually been there and is currently still walking the walk. Book your session as you need it. There are no strings attached. You'll walk away with personalized, actionable advice that you can implement right away. One-on-one, 1-hour sessions as you need it. Head to the website or click the link in the show notes to book your mentorship session, and let's build a beautiful, profitable business that you've been dreaming of together. Let's talk about one of the most powerful ways to grow your design business: referrals. In today's episode of the Business of Beautiful Spaces, I'm sitting down with someone who knows exactly what it takes to build a business and loves to talk about it. Kate Bendewald is the founder of Designer Oasis and the host of the Designer Oasis podcast, and her business journey is one of grit, grace, and straight-up generosity. Kate is a former commercial designer turned interior design business owner who walked away from the corporate grind nearly a decade ago. With zero ad dollars, no financial safety net, and a baby on her hip, she launched her own firm. Within the first year, she built a six-figure design business entirely through word of mouth. But here's the thing. Kate didn't just get lucky. She mastered the art of building a network that loves to refer her. And now through the Designer Oasis, she's helping other designers do the same. Make more money, work in a way that supports their life, attract clients who sing their praises long after the project ends. And in today's conversation, we're going to dive into how to become the kind of designer that people talk about, in the best way, of course, and how to nurture relationships that turn into referrals, and what to do when your lead pipeline starts to feel a little dry. So Kate's going to bring hard-earned wisdom, and we're going to get started. And I promise you'll walk away with this one with both inspiration and action steps that you can take today in your business. Hi there, interior design lovers. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces, the podcast where we blend design inspiration with all behind-the-scenes tips and tricks you need to thrive in your business. I'm your host, Laura Thornton, and with over 27 years in this interior design game and running a seven-figure design company, trust me, I've seen it all. I want to be your interior design bestie. I want to help you build the business of your dreams, make more money, and yes, ditch the stress along the way. I've been doing this for a long time, and now I'm sharing my knowledge with all of you, my fellow designers and decorators. All I ask in return is that you like, review, and follow this podcast wherever you listen, so other designers can find us and learn more too. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into making 2025 your best business year yet. Welcome back to another episode of the Business of Beautiful Spaces. Welcome, Kate. Very excited to chat with you today. Can we start off with you telling us your journey into interior design?
Absolutely. Laura, thanks so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be joining you and your listeners today. I love your podcast. My journey into interior design was pretty straightforward. Sort of. I was in college and I was, getting all of my basics out of the way, trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to be when I grew up. And I learned that there was an interior design course an intro to interior design course happening that summer. And I all of a sudden was like, wait, this is a thing? Like you can get a degree in interior design and get paid for it. And the rest is history. I never looked back. It clicked for me so quickly because I think it was just my background and how I grew up. I was raised by a single mom and we moved a lot. But my mom, who loved interior, I was raised by my grandmother too quite a bit. And my grandmother had a beautiful home, beautiful antiques, lots of pretty things. And I loved exploring her home and exploring her things. And my mom also loved pretty things and lots of things. So whenever we moved, it was always treated as whether we liked it or not, is this like fresh opportunity to start fresh and start anew. And we made every place that we lived our home, and we lived in it, and it was really special and fun. And then she would help her friends in their homes, and she was a teacher, so in the summer, she took a job helping a friend at their antique shop. So I spent a lot of my summers hanging out with her at these antique shops, and I think it was just this culmination of having these women who loved to make beautiful homes and beautiful spaces, being around antiques, and then the opportunity to move a lot and sort of recreate our own spaces everywhere we went, really made it make sense for me. And so I did that, and I started my career in commercial design, which I really loved, and it gave me a lot of great practices that have stuck with me throughout my career. But after I had my first baby, I realized that I wasn't cut out for the corporate 9 to 5 schedule. It wasn't a good fit for what we needed, and so it was about that time. It was actually my husband who was like, "Why don't you just work for yourself?" And I never in a million years thought like I would be a business owner, and here I am running two. So so we went. I remember going on a long walk because it was getting to be clear that this just had to end, the corporate gig, and so did some back of the napkin math and made the decision to launch my own residential design business. And I absolutely love residential design. I know commercial designer, I feel like you either fall into one camp, you either love residential or commercial. We have those rare unicorns that do like to do both, but I love the residential aspect because it's very personal, and I love helping clients craft their spaces. So here we are. And a few years ago, I started Designers Oasis to support interior designers like you, and that's been just a whole other journey that's been a blast and a lot of fun. So here we are.
I love that. I feel like we actually have very similar stories because I moved a lot as a child too, because my dad was
Oh,
a builder. And so every year he would buy a house. And this is before flipping was a thing. This is the 80s. And so
oh
we
yeah.
moved so much. And my mom would be the decorator. And by decorator, she was, I mean, buying the Sears, like decorated in a bag kind of decorating. So I had so
Yeah.
many different rooms, so many, but it was a similar story where every year what color room would you like this year? And like, what would you, and
How
that
fun.
became my thing too. And then I also
Yeah.
went to university and got there and realized I took an art course and thought, I think I'm in the wrong thing. And like,
Uh-huh.
right? It's something that sparks it. So,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that you brought up your designer Oasis. So, what inspired you for that? Because I started in commercial too. So, as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to know your answer, but let's see if I'm right. Like, what created
Well,
that?
why I created Designers Oasis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you're probably right. So when I was in commercial design, the firm that I worked for was a very large firm. Always had monthly lunch and learns, and well, there were really two aspects. One, it's it was the built-in educational pieces. Every month we would have an expert come in and talk about various topics or products, and I loved having that continuing education piece. I'm a very curious person. I love to learn and read and absorb as much information as I can. So when I left that, I didn't have that built in monthly educational piece, and I missed those opportunities to continue to learn and create this for myself. But also, I missed the camaraderie between my colleagues. Working independently by yourself can be a very lonely landscape. And I know how smart and big-hearted the interior design community is. And so I just wanted to create a really special space for interior designers to support each other, and ask each other questions, whether it's a design question or whether it's a business question, but also to bring in experts. So we have monthly experts that come and share their knowledge, and it's kind of a mix between business type topics and conversations, or sometimes products and learning about specific products and how you can incorporate them into your business. So, like, we have a lighting automations one coming up that we're excited about. So, I'm trying to take what I lost there in the corporate commercial space and bring that to residential designers.
I love that. And when you first started your business, you did it without the flashy marketing budget. Like most of us just, decided as like you did, like same thing. I had my kids and I was like, I don't want to be running this this lifestyle and this schedule, and I didn't want them in daycare hours and hours a day. And so you make this big decision without really having the knowledge of how to run a business. We all figure it out somehow in some way. But how did you, okay, what was your first step into your marketing that really moved your needle?
Mm. Well, this is going to tie really nicely in with what we're talking about today because one of the things I've talked about in the past was there were a lot of things I didn't have, right? So I had I was classically trained in interior design and I was really proud of that. I had the experience. But what I didn't have was a network of high net worth individuals. My friends were young moms like me just starting out in life. So I didn't have those strong connections. But I I knew how to connect with people and I knew that I needed to get out and just start to meet people face to face and meet people in my community that were either my ideal client or were somebody sort of related to them. And so I just started to build my network and be um, really curious about other people and what they were doing and building those connections. But you're right, I didn't have a marketing budget. I didn't know anything about business. And I joke that, like, if I can do this, you could do this because I had a lot of things going for me, but I really didn't understand business. And so I had to learn a lot of the things that I have the hard way. And this is probably a story for another time, but those initial years were super hard and I worked myself to the bone. I said yes to everything. Definitely struggled with imposter phenomenon and
Me too.
even though I have a degree in interior design, it's like I hear people say that I'm like, it doesn't matter if you had a degree, you'd still have imposter syndrome about something. So let's just work with that and move past it. Um, where was I going with this? But I knew what I did have and I worked with it and I knew how to connect with people. And that's really what got it all started. Oh, I know what I
So,
was going to say. The story for another time is the burnout that happened from all of
yes.
that was figuring it out by myself, not having a community, not really having business experience. I did end up hiring a sales coach that was tremendously impactful and taught me so much of what I incorporate in my business today. But at one point, we ended up moving to another state for my husband's job, and that was an opportunity to hit the reset button. And when I had the space and the time to rebuild the business with intention. I made a lot of good decisions the second go around, and it was like some things really clicked. And I have felt just this desire to share what I've learned and what's worked for me with other designers, and hopefully help them so they don't make some of the same mistakes that I have.
Yeah. And I mean, I exactly the same verbiage as you. And then sometimes I have to take a moment and say, but was it a mistake? I don't think it's a mistake. We just didn't know what we didn't know. And it was a
Yeah.
different time. Like, this is still so new to have podcasts and to learn information just while you're driving to work. I
Yeah.
bought any book that you could have told me had maybe one half chapter about how to run an interior designer. I would buy it because usually those were the ones that were sealed in plastic, and we have indigo chapters. I don't know what
Uh-huh.
store you would have, but like you couldn't get the information. It wasn't on the internet because that was fairly new. And like you literally would crave it and you'd buy it. I didn't care if it was a $99 book. I wanted some information. And so we're
Yeah.
still in a very new age where how fabulous is it for new designers who want to open their business have all this information at their fingertips because of people like yourself and a handful of us
Yeah.
others that are don't want that for the next generation and are willing to share all our experiences. So not mistakes, just
That's
experiences.
I like a good reframe. That's a good one.
Okay, so that was a great segue to dive into today's topic. Developing your referral network and why the word of mouth is still, in my opinion, probably the most powerful.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most powerful tools to start building your network for a
Yeah.
designer?
So, okay. So this conversation really started because I work with lots of designers, and there are some things when it comes to marketing your business that kept coming up over and over again as these roadblocks for designers. And it was typically one of these three things. It was Kate, I don't have a marketing budget to spend on ads or print or whatever. Or Kate, I hate social media. I loathe it. I love engaging with it, but I don't like creating content. It's not for me. Or how do I build a business as an introvert, right? It's all of these kind of typical roadblocks that we think of when we think of building your business. And the thing that really helped me be successful early on was building personal relationships. I'm a relational person, so this comes naturally to me. But I think even if you don't maybe consider yourself a relational person, this can work for you. I think everybody can be relational if you learn to have really intentional conversations. And so I'd love to talk about that a little bit. So um, the first thing that I really talk about a reframe is I try to help designers think about it when you think about marketing your business and networking. First of all, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of ways we could be marketing our business, and to attempt to do even a fraction of them would be very overwhelming. So my very simple rule of thumb is, and this could be in person or in print or digital marketing of some kind. My quick rule of thumb is pick 1 to 3 strategies, double down on them for 90 days, strategies that fit with your budget, your personality, stage of business, what season of business you're in, and where your clients are. You got to think about some of those factors. Pick 1 to 3, double down on them for 90 days, and then track your metrics and see what's working and double down on what's working and pivot from what's not. But of all of those things, there's one that I really want to talk about today. And this is just building authentic relationships so that you have a referral network that loves to refer you. And so there's really 3 things that I want to share and touch on today. One is starting with having more authentic conversations. And what this is about, I hate small talk. I hate networking. I hate going into a room full of people that I don't know and, talking with strangers. It is one of the things that feels so cringy to me, or at least it used to. And so I had to think of a way like, how could I make this feel more natural and more authentic? And um, there's a couple of things that have helped me over the years to kind of overcome that. It's still not my favorite thing to do. I much more prefer a one-on-one coffee, but that's also what I'm talking about here today. But number one is having authentic conversations, and this starts with really, truly being interested in the person that you're talking to. It's not about being interesting. We tend to default to coming back to talking about us because that's what we know, that's what feels safe. But this is really when you're having a conversation with really anybody, it's important that we focus our attention on them and become really deep listeners and show curiosity about who they are, what lights them up, what are they excited about, and start to ask them questions about that. And when you start to have those kinds of conversations where you, at least in the initial conversations, avoid talking about yourself too much right away and just ask question after question after question, it truly does become more interesting to you, I think. But you can learn a lot about somebody, and that person will inevitably walk away thinking to themselves or feeling, look, let's just be honest, we're a giant crowded planet, but we're all very lonely, and all we want is to be seen and heard. Sometimes you have no idea how just showing true authentic interest in somebody and what they're interested in can make somebody feel really special. And if you do it from an authentic place, it will resonate, it will come through. But when you start to have these conversations where you're asking a lot of questions, then you can start to become a resource for them. Um, Being a resource for somebody is one of the most important things you can do to establish yourself as a trusted individual. So, being a resource could look like, let's say you had a conversation, and it made you think of a book that you read that that person might like. Text them when you're done and say, this is the book I was sharing, mentioned to you that you might be interested in. Or maybe it's a podcast or a magazine article. one of the best things you can do is also introduce them to somebody that they might need to know. Maybe they're a business owner and they're looking for website help, and you can connect them to that person. Look for ways to be a resource. That is one of the most important ways that you can connect with people. And then the last part about having authentic conversations, I love an acronym, is to ACE your conversations. ACE stands for A is authority, C is confidence, and E is excitement. So, um, authority is, so this is when you do get the chance to turn the conversation to you and talk about your work and what excites you. One is talking about it with authority. So authority is things like debunking myths. So this could be, most people think that interior design is A, B, and C, but in reality, it's X, Y, and Z. So debunking myths can be a great way to show your authority on a specific subject. Confidence. We have to stop minimizing the work that we do in interior design and the impact that it has on people's lives. I've had so many conversations with people that walk away saying, I had no idea how impactful design was on people's lives. And you just showed me that there's so much more to it than pretty colors or textures. And the third one, the E, is excitement, which is really getting excited about the work that you do. And the best way you can do that is through storytelling. And so my recommendation for you is to start to think about some stories that you can story bank, to share with people when you start to talk about the work that you do. I have a real quick one that I always keep in my back pocket because it's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite clients. She had two young kids. Well, I say young. The youngest one had just entered high school, and she came to me because their family wanted a kitchen dining renovation, and she came to me with those typical things that we hear. Oh, my kitchen is dark. It's dated. It's lacks good storage and lighting. Blah blah blah. Great, we can take care of all of that. But what's the why behind it? And when we started to really dig in deeper, what we started to learn about was she was looking at the future, knew that her time with her kids was getting to be shorter and shorter. They were getting older. Pretty soon she would be an empty nester. And I don't know, at that age, kids have their own social lives and they're not home as more. And what she really wanted, yeah, she wanted a new kitchen, but she wanted a place where the kids would want to come sit at the counter and do their homework while she cooked, or where they would want to bring their friends and hang out, so that, because quality time is her love language, she wanted to create a space where her kids would want to spend time so she could just get as much time with them before they flew the coops, so to speak. So if you can find stories like that in your own work and share it with people, you can start to help people understand the work that we really do, and how it can impact people. So
there's a lot of good information in there. I just want to rewind a wee bit.
okay.
I want to talk about the first one, which was being authentic and the connections with our clients, because we are really quite intimate with our clients. We know, like to your point, you got down to, it's almost like therapy. You get down to the nitty-gritty of it, and it's really, she doesn't want a new kitchen. She just wants to have everybody around her more and longer. And these are the things that we develop with our clients. And not only that, but we learn, because we work with them for sometimes up to 2 years. We know birthdays, we know anniversaries, we know special occasions, we know the dog's name, we know the birthday of the dog, we know all kinds of things. And this might sound non-authentic, but I do always, if I know it's someone's birthday, it's in our, as soon as I know that there's a birthday, it goes in their file, but it also goes into our calendar. And then every year it pops up and it's effortless. It's not automated. And then I say, because it's me who's sending it, I really hope everything's well. And I list the family's names. I really hope it's been X amount of years since we've been in your space. I hope you're still loving it as much as you did back starting whatever. So like we're constantly connecting authentically. That is authentic to me. Like I do want to wish them a happy
Absolutely.
birthday or happy
Yeah.
anniversary or, la di da da da. But it's also, we're still here.
Yeah.
Reminder, we're still
100%.
here. Happy to work with you.
Exactly.
If your pillows got tired, we're here. But it's having those little connections that you can keep falling back on. And then they'll say, and you won't, every year she sends me like I've had referrals where then they reference, well, we know you send him a birthday, text every year. It's not a text, it's an email, but you get my point. Like you
Yeah.
have this like, this rapport happening with your past
Mhm.
clients, provided you want them to call you again. But that really goes a long way. And it was effortless at first. It was something where it was just like in my calendar. So I'd started doing it. And now I make an effort to say happy birthday to people in my world or happy anniversary or, whatever the case may be, because not everybody's world is as big as like maybe they don't have a big network of friends or family and it's quite small. That means something. So
Absolutely.
I find that that has gone, and that was genuinely authentic. Now it is part of
Yeah,
our, like now it's become, if you know a birthday, please put it in the calendar to the team. But
totally.
it goes a long way. It goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really have 3 points to this little chat that I like to share, but the that really touches on number 3, which is staying top of mind, which is just one aspect. So we'll certainly come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a so I liked that one a lot. And then your ACE I really liked as well because that also those tools are also used in marketing. So you can see that that can cross over into your storytelling, into your website, into anything you do on social media, but even just having that conversation. I liked when you also were saying about how we kind of minimize what we do. I was working with a business coach and, he said, "How do you introduce yourself when someone says, 'What do you do?' I say, 'I'm an interior designer.'" He goes, "Is that what you say?" I'm like, "That is what I say, because that is what I am." And he said, "That can't be your description of what you do. That is not something to trigger a conversation." And so what he was telling me to do was not authentic to me, so I had to tweak it. But you
Sure.
have to come up with something that people actually want to ask you questions and learn more about what you do,
Right.
just deepening what you had
Creates
said before.
intrigue.
And then you can follow back with all the questions back to them to see how you can help them while building your network. So, okay, so how can designers then take these passive networking or lack of networking, just because you can't just cross your fingers and hope for referrals? How can they turn
Yep.
that into active relationships? Should they be afraid to ask for referrals?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, there's one of the things that we talk about. I want to get to that in a minute, because before we
Okay.
do, there's this one little piece that I think sometimes people forget to do is we can always start by inventorying your network. I want you to get plugged in. So first, start to think about your conversations and how to have more intentional conversations, whether that's on the sidelines of a soccer field, or whether it's in a boardroom, or whether it's at lunch with your friends. Um, Starting to talk about the work with that you do with more excitement and showing interest in other people and being of help. And one of the things you can do right now is to story bank, come up with a couple of stories that you like to share that shares about these things. Now that you've got that, it's important to get plugged in with your community. And I think there's a couple of ways we could do this. First, start by inventorying your network. Who do you already know? This could be past clients, this could be colleagues, this can be collaborators, it can be, people in the buildings, trades, that sort of thing. Um, Connecting with other designers. Do not underestimate the power of connecting with other designers, because they can move and you can become. I know when I moved, I was constantly referring my work to one particular designer. When I moved again from Texas, I did the same thing. Um, you could be friends with a designer who's a few calibers ahead of you, and if they've got a project that doesn't quite fit what they're looking for, they could refer that to you. So other designers can also be a great resource. But also, one of the things I love to do is to inventory events in your area. So some great websites you can look at are Eventbrite, Meetup, your local chamber of commerce. I live in Denver. We have the Women's Chamber of Commerce, which is a wonderful organization. um, and look for other sort of like business networking things that fit what it is that you're looking for, and see what do they have going on. A friend of mine introduced me to a co-working space that I love to go. Co-working space is another great place to go, pop in once a week and develop relationships with the people there. But I had a friend who introduced me to to a co-working space, and they were having an event. And at that event, the keynote speaker was phenomenal, and she's a business coach, and I ended up hiring her, and she's been my business coach, and now I'm in her group session. And her group, the folks in my group session are like referral machines for me. So that was just from one event. So again, we got to think about being hunters, sorry, not hunters, but farmers, and taking care of the soil and planting the seeds and then letting it grow, because these things can really snowball it. And they might, with referral networking, with relationship building, these are things that just take time. So I want you to first start to think about how can you get plugged in with your network? Because you got to do that before you start asking for referrals. Um, and then, so my suggestion to anybody who's listening to this today is sometime in the next 24 hours, I want you to do this. I want you to get on Google and start to inventory events or networks in your area. AGC, the Association of General Contractors, is another good one. AIA, of course, ASID, all of those. Look and see what's going on and commit to going to one or two events in the next couple of weeks or months where you can connect with some new people and expand your network. And then the third part of this is to state, how do we stay top of mind? So we're learning how to have better conversations that are more intentional. We're getting plugged in. Once you start to make these connections, you don't want it to be a one and done thing. And you mentioned earlier connecting with past clients. Past clients are excellent referral partners because they know firsthand what wonderful job you can do, and they make great referral partners. So it could be, like you said, birthdays, anniversaries, touching base and authentically celebrating that with them, following them on social media. I'm always seeing my clients post, first day of school was this week. So I'm seeing all the little kiddies going back to school and celebrating that with them. And I'm not doing it for any other reason than I genuinely want to share that I'm excited for them. But I also know that the good consequence of that is that I'm again top of mind for them. So,
Mhm.
but the thing that I do to make this really intentional is I recommend a once a week, what I call a connection check-in. So a connection check-in is a 1 hour once a week that is a dedicated time to touch base with people. So I recommend reaching out to 1 to 3 people every week, and you can invite them to coffee or to lunch. You can think of somebody that you met in the last week and the conversation that you have. Is there a resource that you can share? Because we talked about being a resource. Um, Sharing that article or that Instagram account that reflects to what back to what you were talking about, a book, whatever. You can make an introduction to somebody. I'm always referring my landscape designer to folks, and she's doing the same thing. And anytime you can introduce people that can help somebody out, people are so grateful for that. Sign up for their newsletter if they've got that. Invite them to an upcoming event. And also finding them on social media, whether that's LinkedIn or Instagram, and just engage with them there. But it's to ask for a referral would be, very intentional, and you want to do that with the right person at the right time. And for me, I think it's just as simple as, hey, Jamie, I wanted to just let you know that we've got some openings in our fall calendar for some new clients. If you know anybody that could use our assistance, we'd love an introduction. I also tell people, think about anybody in your network that has had any big life changes. 100% of my clients come to me during major life changes. They've had a baby, they've gotten married, they've gotten divorced, they've moved, they've got a new job, their kids moved off to college, like whatever those big life-changing events are typically what spurs clients to reach out to a designer. And so sometimes that can be a good way to jog their memory. But I think asking for referrals is smart, it's intentional, and you can do it in a way that doesn't feel icky. Um, but I do come from the belief that we want to nurture those relationships a little bit more before we get to those. But you're the best judge of those relationships, and you'll know when it's right to make that ask, I think.
Yeah, and I do the exact same thing. I call it the Richard Branson time because that's how it was passed to me, which the gentleman created Virgin, and that's what he used to do every morning, or probably still does. He would spend an hour, he would reach out to people, make phone calls, connect, and same thing. Like I've done that now for months and months. I mean, we used to be non-consistent, now it's consistent.
Yeah,
And because we are in a little bit of a dip here in the Toronto market, I've had more
sure.
time to do it, and it has brought
Great.
5 new projects in 6 weeks. Just for anyone listening who thinks
Yeah.
that's it, because I was like, it's icky. I don't want to do that. I don't want to, I feel sure, like, you just felt like it wasn't authentic or aligned with who I am. But I'm telling you, it was an email or a phone call or like, I'm looking for your help. Do you know someone who's moving, who's been in their house for 25 to 30 years? Maybe it's their cottage, maybe there's, like whatever the case may be, who
Yeah,
would you connect us? And if you don't, that's great. I'm still going to give you a call. I still would love to catch up. I still would love to have that coffee with you, whatever the case may
yeah,
be. And
totally.
5 projects in 6 weeks.
I'm so
So
excited
it
for you.
works.
It's
So if
true.
anyone who's like,
Energy,
I don't do that, it works.
I always say energy begets energy, right? You put your energy towards something like that and it's going to come back to you.
Yeah, and you get feedback from the clients too, your past clients or your past network, where they're like, "Oh, we always assume you're so busy. You don't have, why would you assume we're busy? Of course we can help you or your friend or whoever." So it's great to take that dispelling myths that they have about us and say,
Yeah.
"No, we like exactly your point. We have still 2 or 3 openings. If somebody wants to fit in, of course we'll always fit you in or whatever the case may be." But
Uh-huh.
yeah, that networking is precious. It brings a lot of business if you're willing to do it.
Absolutely. Well, and I would encourage you if you're listening to this and you feel like, "Oh, I could never do that." Think about if you got that email from somebody that you knew and somebody was like, "Hey, just genuinely reaching out to say, I'm looking to fill my business pipeline. I'm reaching out. I'm looking for, somebody that you might know." Like, I would never personally ruffle my feathers at that. I'd be like, "Oh my
Not at
gosh,
all.
who do I
Yeah.
know? How can I help this person?" Like, I would just jump at the opportunity if I got that email. And I'm guessing that that would be the same for you. So if it feels hard or uncomfortable, I would encourage you to just think about how you would respond to that and realize that most people are going to be eager to think about that and see how they can help.
Yeah, and start small. Like maybe you only send it
Totally.
to 3 or 4 people on your who you haven't touched base with in a while. Like don't send it to every single person in your network the same day because then you can't get that much coffee into your body if they all take you up on it. Like pace it out. Make sure that
Yeah.
you have time to make the call. They don't have to answer, but you'd be surprised at the responses you get too. Like majority of them are like, loved hearing from you. I love your newsletter. Like so compliment. Of course, we would refer you. Like, it's so lovely to know that they think those things, and that's not what you're reaching for. But it's nice to know that they even took the time to write back and acknowledge that they, of course, would reach out to you or pass your name and those
Yeah.
kinds of things. So I know it didn't feel authentic for me at first, and it made me uncomfortable. So anyone who's like, I don't want to do it, just try, just try 3 or 4.
And I think there's a lot of different modalities that you can do it into. It can be a phone call, it can be an
Yeah,
email. I'm a big fan of voice memos with my clients, the ones that I'm pretty close with. And, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a client that I'm currently working with, and they were, um, bless them, looking to save a little bit on their budget, which I totally respect, but by skipping the accessorizing and styling phase, which is a part, that I not typically not negotiable. um, but I didn't want the it to come from me. I wanted them to hear from past clients how impactful that phase and process is. So I have a couple of past clients who I knew good relationship with, trust them, and I sent them a little voice memo, and I was like, "Hey, so I have this client and they're looking at skipping the accessorizing and styling phase. I'm wondering if you like, what would you say if to them about skipping that process?" And they both got back to me right away with voice memos back, and they were like, "Tell them they're crazy to skip that part. That's the best part," and blah blah blah. And I was just laughing. But now I'm connected with them. They know they're top of mind, but also they were helping me out, and they were just so sweet and generous to offer to share that. And I was able to take their words and turn them into a little blurb that I could share with them. And guess what? The client decided to take us up on it. They're like, "Okay, you're right. We don't want to skip that." But there's all kinds of ways that you can connect with them. The voice memo thing, I feel it feels more casual and relaxed, but they can also hear your voice, which I think people can connect with as well. So do what makes the most sense for that particular relationship and kind of your comfort level and what feels right for you, I'd say.
love that. So I love that there's some action items here because I always love
Yeah.
sending everybody out back in the world with doing something immediately. So the
Okay.
first one everyone's doing because Kate told you to is 24 hours. You're going to look up the events on Google in your area and where you can network. And
Yeah.
then possibly in the next 5 working days, take an hour, do your Richard Branson time or your connection time, and reach out to some past clients with a possible referral email. If you text in your business, maybe a text or a voice note, just saying hi. And if you know anybody who's looking for any work, we have some availability. You
Yeah.
don't have to make it negative and not like, I think people think when they do that, it's going to be like, they're going to think I'm not busy. You could say, we're expanding, we're growing. And so now we're looking for a few more, like turn it in a way that makes you feel better about it. But those are the two action items that everyone's walking away with. So, Kate, where can
I love that.
everybody find you? All the good things about Designer Oasis.
Yeah, great. Thank you. This has been fun. So you can find us on Instagram. We're at Designers Oasis. Also, we have a little tool to go along with this
That's
conversation
right.
because when I've had this chat before with people, one of the things that came up quite a bit was designers would say, I have a really hard time like just starting these conversations with strangers that I don't know. And so we put together some conversation starters that spark authentic connections. So we have 15 authentic conversation starters, and it's organized by the context. So if you're at an event or whether it's a client check-in or just everyday life, but you can find that at designersoasis.com/spark. For sparking authentic connections. Again, that's designersoasis.com/spark. And you can grab that conversation starter guide.
Super. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for spending some your time with me today. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, it's been a blast. I can't wait to do it again. You have a wonderful podcast. I love your conversations and your authenticity and showing up with your audience. So it's a pleasure.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. Thanks so much.